Hi guys, it's Chuck, and I'm coming to you from the new Link Lighting Lab from Link Outdoor Lighting Distributors. We're redoing all the videos, and I had mentioned that in one of our newsletters, and so this is the start. And what we're going to talk about today is connectors. And you probably said, oh no, we already know everything about connectors. Well, connectors are really the most, or at least one of the most important things in a landscape lighting or an architectural lighting install. The connection is everything, guys. So we kind of want to go over some of that stuff again to make sure you guys really understand the choices and how to use those choices. The most common, the thing we probably sell the most of, wire nuts. Now we sell a lot of King wire nuts. We've got them King or Ideal. We're distributors for both. But the King grease-filled, silicone-filled wire nuts are kind of the industry standard. Come in three pretty much distinct sizes for landscape lighting. There's the black blue, large, of course the black gray, which is a medium, and then the black white, the small. And most of the guys are using, and typically this will be a number 12, 14 wire, a couple of connections, the black grays. I want to show you this because of the LED lighting and the reduced wire size and stuff. We've got them all the way down to something that tiny. And that is, of course, it's not grease filled, I understand that, but we have that available. That is a real tiny wire nut. You can see that. Now, here's the key about wire nuts. I mean, a lot of guys don't realize this. Inside, whether it's these or this, there is a metal wound spring, kind of like a helicoil with sharp edges. And that's designed to screw down on the wire. Let me show you that. And as it screws down on the wire, it actually threads itself onto the wire. Make sense? So that makes it the tighter you get it, the tighter it is. It just sort of binds itself. That's key. Now the problem is with landscape lighting wire, of course it's stranded wire. It's pretty flexible. It's hard to get that good tight grip on it. Now let me show you what electricians use on solid wire. They use a tool like this. Now you'll see that's got a hole in the end of it, and that's designed to, after the wire nut goes on, sort of finger tight. By the way, they're putting on hundreds a day. Their hands fatigue, for real. So they slip this thing over a wire nut, and then they can really snort down on it and get it super tight. That's the key to a wire nut connection, guys, is super tight. And listen, we've seen it a million times. Guys like yourselves, good guys, good installed guys who go out, they'll pull up a fixture or something, can't find the wire nut. There's a bare wire sticking in the ground. Don't know what happened to the wire nut. So it does. One of the other keys, and believe me, there are specs, there's instructions for using each size wire nut, is how much wire, how much insulation you strip. So there's a proper strip length for each size wire nut. Guys, if you're going to use wire nuts, it behooves you to find out what the proper strip length is for the size wire nut. The other thing on this is, besides being the proper strip length, is make sure when you group your wires together, and you just have to put a little twist on it just to hold them in place, the wire nut will tighten down if you've done it correctly. But get the wires, don't get like this, like this. You got to get them like so, because that wire nut's going to tighten down, and it's going to try to move them around anyway, but you want those wires to be relatively even. And I'll suggest this, also strip as liberally as you can within the specs. Don't be cheesy on the strip. The wire nuts are a good choice. They're not bad. We're not against them. We think there's other things that are better. And primarily what we like are, and we've told you this a million times, is copper crimp. And I'm showing you the large size right now for illustration purposes. The copper crimp and grease tube connection. It's an NEC bonded connection passcode. That copper crimp, guys, is really a good crimp. Now, a number of manufacturers are making these things. Ideal makes them, King makes them. They have different trade names for them. We like the North Star product, and I'll tell you why, because their copper crimp itself is really good. It's good grade of copper, and they're inexpensive. Guys, it's cheap, and it's a real good value for money. So we think it's great. This happens to be a small cut. We have it in small and large. This happens to be a small. It's the most popular now with smaller size wire. It's got a strain relief. Obviously, it's got the the narrow side and then the wide side for the. Can you see that? Okay, for the wires to come out, and that can hold a lot of wire. And even with the small, let me show you this. The small crimp. That's the small size. Let's see. I'll show you compared to each other. Let's see. Small and large there. Yep. This is a great thing. Now let me show you. You gotta have the right tool. And in our profession, guys, tools are everything. Buying the good tools, don't lose them in the yard. Everything. Now let me show you this tool. This is the copper crimp tool. Now watch these pins come out. As you crimp down on that crimp, you see that? It takes every bit of void out. That, guys, is one heck of a connection. In fact, you can't pull it apart, period. It will break the wire every time. So here's the key on these, is to strip liberally, and this is nowhere near enough strip. I'd strip 3 times that length. Strip liberally, just a little twist to hold them together. You slide the crimp on with the flared side down. Make sure, of course, if you've done a good strip job, you're going to have plenty sticking out. You're going to get all the wires in there, and then you put the tool on and bear down on it with all you got, and that, guys, is an unbelievable connection. Now, let me recommend one thing. After you made this connection, if you've got a pair of tie one back so they don't arc or touch. A lot of guys will install live, and I understand that. But I recommend you do not put these grease tubes on until the very end of the installation. You've made all your voltage, your amp load checks, everything's on and ready. And here's why. Inside of that is some nasty grease, guys. That is as nasty as it gets. 50 years from now, that grease will still be in there around that connection. That's a rock solid program. So once you have put it on, the only way to change it or do anything, cut it off, start fresh. So here's the key. You'll use these most every place. But if you're somewhere where you don't have a lot of wire, you're working in a junction box, it's short, then yes, let's go back to the wire nuts, because once this is on, it's almost impossible to pull that off and clean that grease off and really start fresh. It's a mess. Now, let me show you a couple other things that we like. We have in stock. We have, of course, these Ace connectors. Now we get them from King. Everybody has them. And this is a set screwed one. You see, they got the Allen wrench in the bag here. They've got the heat shrink. We like this connection for an inline connection. Now, some guys will put in an 18 and a 14 on one side, so they've got the fixture coming out, and then the line runs on. It's okay. I'm not against it. The problem we have with this is the heat shrink out in the field. Getting a good uniform shrink and a good seal is a concern. Other than that, they're okay. Now, one last one that we like a lot, and that is, this comes from actually Unique, I think. It's an Ideal product. Let me make sure you can see this. This is a brass lug, if you will. Can you see it's got a little slotted set screw in there, so to speak. So I've got a, let's see, can you see that, guys? It's got a threaded end, and of course your wires slip in there. And let me show you quick how this works. I hope you guys can see this. So you back out the set screw. Again, strip liberally. We haven't stripped nearly enough here, but I was trying to illustrate it. Okay, so you slip that over your connection. Threaded side down. Now, here's the key. I mean, you can tighten this up a little bit here, just so you can see. And make sure you guys can see this, okay? But without this tool, you haven't got anything going for you. Now, let me show you how this tool works. That slips over that. Can you see that there? That slips over that, and then, of course, exposes the little threaded set screw. And with that, you can hold that ferrule or that lug in place and tighten down. You get a good, and I mean, lay it on there, boys. Go back and retighten a second time, because that copper will give and it'll get loose. Retighten a second time. Now that is a nice connection. It really is. Can you see it? I'm trying to hold still. That's a really, really nice connection. And I'll show you. Here's the cap for it. Remember, we put the threaded side down, not up, threaded side down. So here's our cap. Oh, if we had stripped correctly, we'd have a lot of stray hairs up here. Nip them off, and then screw that cap down, and screw it down. Get tight, and that makes a really nice connection. Now, it's not as good as the copper crimp and grease tube, and you can fill these with grease. They come from Unique. Let me show you this, guys. They come pre-filled with a little tape on the end. Pretty nasty as well. But I recommend this if you know you're going to make some changes. You're not sure. There's a variety of reasons. You know, we don't. Now listen, that was a good connection, because you see I'm trying to get and it's twisting the wire to get it off. That's good. That means we got a good tight grip there. So that kind of gives you the gamut again of connections. I can't remember if we talked about soldering or not. Certainly, love it, absolutely. Hauling the solder pot around, molten solder, it's a problem. Maintaining those solder pots, they will burn out pretty quick. If you've got one, use it. Our source of supply for the solder kits is dried up. There's no longer available, so we like it, and you know, done correctly. Cast Lighting kind of came up with that, and they still do offer that tin-coated wire which solders beautifully, but there's some challenges. So second to that, again, I insist, copper crimps and grease tubes, guys, remember, and I know guys are going online trying to find cheap crimps. Don't do it. Use the good ones that come with it. It's still a real value for money. A bag of these is $27.95. A bag of 50. Huh, give me a break. So that's the story on connections. Final time, hopefully. Oh yeah, I got one other thing to show you. I love these. I love these. This is not an outdoor product. I use them sometimes outdoors. Let me show you. This is a 120 volt product. These things were made for, NEC came up with a new rule about quick disconnect on light fixtures. It's typically an indoor product. But obviously 3 conductor, so you got a ground, black and a white. And it was just that. It's a quick disconnect. And these things are phased, so you can't get it, you can't put it back together wrong. It's what's the word I'm using? I can't think of the word, but you guys get it. It's phased. And this is a great 120 volt connection, and in the right place. I wouldn't tell you to go against code, but in the right place, this can be a real good 120 volt quick connect device. So we've got the whole gamut, as always. So call us, Link Outdoor Lighting. You guys know how to get a hold of us, and this information will be at the bottom of the video. Thanks.